folks. I'm gonna take a hunch and say this might be where we're at for right now. But I have some stuff I can share with the team while we're here. And then when Mr. Finley joins us, I know he has some LCAP data to share as well. Is that correct, Dr. NT?
Yeah, but I think that he's already shared it for school site council, and so everybody on the calls already heard it. But
Oh,
are you?
I've heard it. I've heard it
Yeah,
twice
okay.
now already.
yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Then we're
So why don't
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
So do
yeah,
you want to do just a wrap up for us then, Mrs. Jameyer?
sure.
Okay. And I'll show my face in a moment. I know we're being recorded, but I have somebody calling me right now. But go ahead. You had like a
Yeah.
maybe a synopsis of what's going on.
Oh, no, I had goals for next year actually, like things that we want in parent engagement.
Oh, cool. Let's do
Please
that.
share.
Yeah,
I'm
because
excited.
we had such a small turnout this year. I had some goals set and some ideas. We had tried to present last time with when we had the Grubhub gift cards, and we talked a little bit about including parents. Then so for the next one, taking kind of the feedback, came up with some ideas, and nobody came. So I would be happy to share what I've got. All right, so welcome to the English Learners Advisory Committee meeting. Small but important group of people. The goal of today's meeting is to elicit ideas for increased cross-cultural inclusion at Reach. I feel that part of what ELAC could or should be doing is looking at ways that we can make sure that all of our students are represented and feel heard at Reach. And so parent input is vital to growing a more inclusive environment here. And I want parents to be able to respond openly and honestly. I know Delfino, right now that's you. So give me what you got when we get there or as we go through. Ideally, we could have more people come and then include all of their responses as well. And so just kind of looking at how by celebrating our differences, we can all grow because strength lies in our differences, not in our similarities. So we really want to be able to celebrate the differences in our teams. And we know that representation really does matter. So looking through the school climate survey, 14% of parents indicated that we could improve in the area of communicating the importance of respecting all cultural beliefs and practices. And that just stood out to me because I feel like while we do a lot of celebrating during years when we're really open, if 14% of people feel like we could improve in communicating that, I don't know if it's that we're celebrating something or not communicating it, or if really we do have such a diverse school that maybe we're not aware of all the things we could be practicing or celebrating with our students, or aware of different beliefs and practices that need to be respected or identified on campus that perhaps people haven't spoken up about. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me? We'll take it as a yes. Okay.
Sorry, I
So,
was shaking my head. Yes, it makes sense. Thank you, Darren. Thank you,
cool.
Mrs. Jameyer.
No problem. So as I'm sure this team knows, the mission states that REACH is dedicated to bridging the socioeconomic, racial, and digital divide for underserved youth. So part of that is wanting all of our scholars to feel seen, heard, and celebrated for what makes them special. So I think with ELAC that it's kind of on our plate to try and reach out and include different cultures, not just English learners, but families who speak another language in the home or have a different, any kind of cultural representation. Because I know we have a lot of kids who've tested out of the English learner community, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still be celebrating them or hearing their voices, because they're still part of Reach community. So some ideas for getting that conversation started was just looking at like asking questions, you know, eliciting some information about how we could better include representation for your culture or any of the parents, families at Reach. And so I was kind of wondering, like, just in what way can we better communicate and demonstrate respect toward families, cultures, and beliefs? And what are some important celebrations we could include in our school calendar to celebrate different families' culture with our scholars? I know in the past we've had some really cool opportunities for families to bring celebrations on campus, and I'd love to see that start again once we kind of reopen. to full kids on campus, more events, volunteers, things like that. But I want to know what's out there. What are we missing? What could we do better? What could we do differently? What are we not including? Because you don't know what you don't know. And then what are some things we should be sensitive to that maybe we're not aware of? Again, not knowing what we don't know, I just want us to be more informed about the different cultures of our students and the diversity in our community so that we can be more culturally inclusive. And then questions, again, would be like, what are some questions you have about cultural inclusion at Reach? Wondering if we could tap into that 14% by getting them here so we can know, what are their questions and what do they need from us? And do they have questions about the ELAC committee or the LPAC test? Happy to answer those. Any questions so far? Any questions about your child's English learner status, if he or she is designated as an English learner? Any questions in general about anything?
So all of that sounds awesome, just FYI. My son's not designated an English learner. I don't think anymore, although Spanish was his first language. But I mean, you're asking all the important questions, but the hardest one to answer is how do we get a hold of parents who don't come to these meetings as it is?
Yeah.
That's what I rack my brain about. I don't know how to reach them.
I feel like we could start with the meet and greet in the summer, and have a table at the meet and greet. So when people are coming in to meet their teachers, have a really fun table up with maybe a game or some kind of like takeaway so that they'd want to come to the table, and just to get like lists of people who are interested in starting, starting that conversation with us, really, just like being part of the conversation and having their voices heard would be our most important step. But it's a time when generally, when the campus is open, that the most people are on campus is like meet and greet and back to school night. And so if we had like a presence and made it about cultural inclusion instead of just like answering questions for English learners, I think that would go really far. And more people might be willing to buy in and support us and have their voices heard. I think it should be empowering, not just us giving presentations.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even with school site council, I think maybe the first or maybe the second meeting we had some parents there. And it's just really hard. We've put out an email for them to email, and we haven't gotten any emails. So it's always a difficult thing, and it's really something that really needs to be kind of grassroots and personal, right? So that they make a connection with somebody they can go to. And this year it's been hard. It's a hard year to start any of these projects because potentially you carried some over from previous years of the same parents. But everybody's so disconnected. I work at an adult school, and doing it virtually, it was such a hard year for us to get grads, to get students to fulfill their weekly requirements for hours, to test, to turn in laptops. All of that stuff was just, all our teachers are like, what do we do? And we're like, we don't know. All we can do is call, text, look them up on social media. But even then, it's a challenge this year. So hopefully June 15th, we'll hear something different, and next year will be different. And I'm definitely willing to be there at the meet and greet and sit at the table and invite people in. I think that's an awesome idea. Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Yay. Yeah, I was excited to kind of get into this area as I was learning it this year. And that was the piece I took away from the empty Zooms, was just like, there's such little buy-in. And this is a weird year to start anything, but going into next year, it gives us a great opportunity to be able to really like connect with the community. And I would hope that, coming out of the pandemic, so many people will be looking for that connection, even just by being available and having that signage and logo and being accessible, would encourage people to like come forth and be part of the community with us. But I know we had, in total, maybe 8 people for the whole year.
Yeah, when I worked in South Central, and it was a charter school too, right? So a small population, I think smaller than even your guys' school is right now. We had only 300 students, and which was it was a blessing because I knew every student's name, right? No matter what grade, I knew their parents. We went to their family barbecues. We went to their Sunday services with them. We would go into their apartments and clean their apartments for them. It was a small group of staff that did that. It wasn't the whole staff. Everybody wasn't available to do that. But really, that's when people start to see that they could count on the school for other things too. But it's such a yeah. At the same time, you can't save everybody, and you can't compel people to want your help. And so I think it's not an issue we're ever going to solve, but I think it's an issue that's always worth working at, no matter what. And so,
Thanks.
that's what we can do. Hopefully next year we get an extra 2 parents or 3 more, and then we keep growing from there. So
Yeah, get the ball
I
rolling.
got one starting kinder next year, and then another one coming in the year after that. And so
Yay.
you guys got me for like another 7 years at least. So hopefully it'll,
Good.
I'm willing to work during that time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your feedback too, because I know that's kind of helped at some of the other meetings where I'm like, okay, like, we have to start looking at home visits, which during COVID, I was like, I wouldn't feel comfortable if someone came to my house back in October. But once we kind of know who's out there and what's going on, I think that's a really great way to incorporate that too, is to do more person to person interaction. Because I know we're all a little burnt out on Zoom, but I'd really like to see more families engaged so we can have their kids feeling heard. And that piece of the climate survey that just stuck with me, like, oh, 14%, like that's a little chunk.
Do you feel like in this setting and that parents were adequately notified? And do we feel like maybe if you hold these meetings later in the day, you might have more participation?
That's something to consider, the timing. I know Miss Gill was saying that in the morning after drop off, she had a lot of luck. When they were running it before, that people would drop their kids off and come in. So we could alternate like a morning one month and do the evening the next month. And that way,
See if you don't get better participation.
yeah, and just like swap it out, switch up the times.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe play around with the times and see if you can capture more people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And
thank you for
then
your effort. You're working really hard, and Lisa's
trying.
there. Yeah. Mhm.
The thought's there. It's just about getting the pieces all moving. But next year we'll see growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
If you need anything, reach out.
Thanks, Mrs. Dumeier.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
Delphine.
guys.
Bye.
Of course, have a
Bye.
good
Thank
one.
you, Delphina.
Bye.